Morning world, it's Thursday the 5th of September 2019. It's about 10:30 in the morning UK time. This video is not going to be of that much interest to anyone outside of the UK. It is a video on British politics. Nevertheless, there will be a lot of astrology and I will be drawing relation of this to every other country in the world as well. So let's have a look actually where the astrology of the world is first of all right now. The Sun, Mercury, Venus and Mars are all within a tight 7-degree conjunction of each other at the moment. And they're all opposite Neptune in the sky. And the Sun, Mercury, Venus, Mars and Neptune are all squaring Jupiter in the sky very strongly. Of course, the Jupiter-Neptune square reaches its conclusion in about a week and a half time. Add to this that as I speak, the moon is in early Sagittarius, and within 24 hours of now, the moon will have squared the Sun, Mercury, Venus, Mars and Neptune and conjuncted Jupiter. So it's one hell of a pattern up there at the moment. And as you can see, it's a great pattern for clarity, objectivity, detachment, impersonality and a cold and clear perspective. Not. It's messy out there. It's messy everywhere in the world. Every country, every person in the world will be feeling this to some shape and form. But I live in England, or rather, I live in Britain. England, Northern Ireland, Scotland, Wales. I really dislike the way that my country has been demonstrating its power in the world over the last few hundred years. I really dislike the establishment that runs this country. I particularly dislike the so-called political elite that think that they run this country. And yet I love my country. I am not a xenophobe. I wouldn't even really call myself a nationalist. But I do love my country. And I'm appalled by what I see is going on. I have never in my life, I've been watching politics for 45 years, I'm 64 now, seen such a time of chaos, disruption and utter disregard for people's opinions and humanity as I'm seeing now in the British political system. I'm not a lefty, I'm not right, I'm a green. I'm also a centralist. There's a number of factors here. Firstly, in the last few days, there's been actually a major change in British politics in the last 48 hours. Parliament has voted that it will control the agenda for leaving the European Union, not government. The difference between this is that if a government sets the agenda, then it is coming from its own political creed and philosophy. But governments have become exceedingly polarised, ever more so in recent decades. And now you don't get governments standing for election on a particular policy. They're standing for election on the grounds that everyone else is going to be doing this and we don't think that's a good idea, so vote for us and we won't let them. They're not telling us what they will do, they're telling us what others shouldn't be doing. The difference between having a government setting the agenda and having a parliament setting the agenda is that parliament is a cross-section of people from the left and the right. And any consensus has to be a better solution rather than a particular political party. Ideally, in the ideal world, the days of political parties are completely numbered. And instead individuals will be elected to Parliament to govern and to fulfil the wishes of the people, and that all major decisions which will be enacted by Parliament on behalf of the people will be made by the individuals in Parliament returning to the people who elected them and saying, well, what do you think we should do? i.e. a system of either major or minor referenda, which politicians all over the world are running scared of because they will be disempowered by having this. As it stands in Britain at the moment, there will be a general election and it will be soon. in my ideal perspective, it will result in a hung parliament, where the number of Labour and Conservative MPs will be about equal, and there will be a significant number of Liberal, Scots nationalist, Plaid Cymru and Green MPs who will then hold the balance, and then we will have consensus politics and a middle ground will emerge. But at the moment, with the extremes of polarity on the left and the right, which is represented in the country as well, not just in the party, it does seem that both the country and the government and the parliament is in a mess. Especially with this current government. It is not so much the fact that it is a Conservative government, it is the individuals in this government. And I note with interest that Boris Johnson, whom the single most common thing that's being said about him at the moment by everyone across the political divide, including in his own party, is that he lies. He is untrustworthy, and he has been removed from office 2 or 3 times in recent years for, if I say lying, I'm going to open myself up to legal issues. So allegedly being economical with the truth, making false representations. Certainly yesterday, the leader of the House of Commons, the father of the House of Commons, the longest serving MP, stood up and said that he really wanted to compliment Boris Johnson on his skill at being disingenuous, which I thought was a really funny comment. There's also the leader of the House of Commons, Jacob Rees-Mogg, most notable in recent days, noted for laying flat out on the front benches of the Parliament and just sort of laying resplendent like some Roman emperor having grapes dripped into his mouth. Boris Johnson, Jacob Rees-Mogg and David Cameron, who initiated the referendum in the first place, are all part of an elite group, the Bullingdon group from Eton Public School. Now, I'm not having a go at public school boys or the elite or the establishment, because many of these people have gone on to become very good public servants and have given a great deal of service to their country and to people less fortunate themselves. But there is this hardcore elite in the Conservative Party at the moment who consider themselves elite, who think themselves above everybody else. They've never done a day's work in their life. They've never been poor. They've never had to struggle. And they are a disgrace. Having said that, the current leadership of the Labour Party is equally as bad. They, over the last 20 or 30 or 40 years, have consistently and regularly espoused politics that are directly confrontational to what the majority of the British public think. And basically, nobody trusts Jeremy Corbyn either, as much as Boris Johnson. So we need a new government. We need a new system of government in this country. And I will come to the astrology of this in a minute. But I suggest I can name 3 names of people whom I would trust from all sides of the political divide to come together as a triumvirate. I would have said the Conservative, Rory, oh God, what's his name? Just at this moment, I forget his name. His father was a very senior security officer. He stood for election as party leader, but he's just been expelled for the Conservative Party for voting against Boris Johnson, along with 21 others. The Tories have really shafted themselves. They might as well be wearing swastikas on the sleeves, those who are left. That's a strong comment. Maybe I shouldn't have said that. Oops. But you don't expel people for voting with their conscience. Rory Stewart from the Conservative Party, Dan Jarvis from the Labour Party, Joe Swinton from the Liberal Party, all level-headed, sane people who have a good idea of the future and who are not extremists in any shape or form. They are intelligent people, and they would do well. The astrology of this is absolutely crazy. When Theresa May said that she would lead Europe out of the European Union on March the 29th, come what may, I looked at the ephemeris and I thought, Mercury goes retrograde on March the 29th. That's not going to happen. And now Boris Johnson is saying, I will lead Britain out of the European Union on October the 31st, come what may, one way or another. And I'm thinking, ooh, Mercury's going retrograde on October the 31st. Is this going to happen? Not a chance. Not the way we think it's going to happen. Add to this that at this time, Jupiter and Neptune are squaring each other, so the confusion, the nebulousness, the uncertainty of these times is only going to exacerbate and increase in the next couple of weeks. And in the background, Saturn is standing still now. It will be moving forward in 2 weeks' time, and then it will start catching up with Pluto. In the next 2 months, the new moons and full moons are particularly challenging. Full moons particularly in conjuncting and opposite Uranus, and the new moon squaring Pluto is going to be particularly strong. And this will be around about mid-September, a couple of weeks' time. No, mid-October, I'm sorry. Just around the time when the election is happening and the big meeting of European leaders is happening. I think it's the full moon square. The full moon square Pluto is a day before the European meeting of leaders, and that's going to be rather messy as well. And in the background, Saturn conjunct Pluto in Capricorn. Restructuring, transforming, reorganising, and where necessary destroying old patterns of government, old patterns of rulership and of governance. We live in crazy times. I've never seen it as crazy as it is now. And this is not crazy in terms of war. Yes, there are individuals, and it's nice not to be going on about the normal suspects for once. But then this is basically a Britophile video. But this country is losing its reputation incrementally and with acceleration, day by day at the moment. It's becoming a laughing stock. And we're led by someone who's been described most consistently as a buffoon. And yet, he still retains the vote of 50% of the population. I despair. And I'm seriously considering my long-term options. And now we head into day 3 of shouting and pointing at each other across the parliamentary chamber. From an outside perspective, it's fascinating to watch. I'm going to stop now. Catch you later, world. Bye.